After a long, cold winter, the Australian sunshine provided a warm welcome when Formula One regrouped in Melbourne. The cars looked very different to previous years, with larger, adjustable front wings. It appeared that each team had taken a completely different approach, but the big question was, who had got it right? The back of the car was also radically altered, but it wasn't the narrower rear wing that created the stir. Braun, Williams and Toyota exploited a loophole in the regulations and developed a double-decker diffuser. Its main aim was to increase downforce. The FIA considered the arguments from both camps and eventually declared the cars legal. The remaining teams who hadn't developed the concept were far from happy. The debate would not be settled overnight. Ferrari didn't start their campaign in the way they'd hoped. A hydraulic problem cut short Kimi's running on Saturday morning.
Okay, stop and switch off. Stop and switch off. No downshift, no downshift.
The reigning champion didn't kick off the defence of his title in the way he had hoped. A sudden loss of drive in qualifying left him coasting back to the pits, and although he made it into Q2, he couldn't participate. A new gearbox put him 5 places back on the grid. Kubica ditched his KERS and was surprised with P4, but teammate Heidfeld ran with KERS and was disappointed to miss out on Q3 by a small margin. The front of the field saw a changing of the old guard, with Button, Barrichello and Vettel at the top of the timing pages. Just weeks ago their careers were in turmoil, and now Braun GP headed up the front row.
It's especially special for us because we've had such a torrid winter. You know, every day it's been up and down. You know, one day it looks positive and we're going to be racing this year, and the next day it's not. So to finally arrive here with a car that we knew was competitive was a great feeling, but also to put it on pole now, you know, I'm sure the whole team have been very emotional, and so this isn't the end of it. You know, tomorrow is the race, but we've got to enjoy this today because this is a good start.
But it wasn't a good start for everyone. Both Toyotas were excluded from qualifying after their rear wings were found to demonstrate extreme flexibility. Aussie favourite Mark Webber was disappointed with 8th, but it was a remarkable achievement considering his off-season cycling accident. When the fuel loads were published, it was clear the Brauns were going to be quick. In one of the most eagerly anticipated seasons, finally F1 months of hard work were about to be put to the ultimate test. Both Toyotas opted to start from the pit lane following their penalties. Button led from Vettel, Rosberg, Massa, Kubica and Raikkonen. He was already putting some air between himself and the rest of the field, while Rosberg kept losing places. Heidfeld, Sutil and Webber all stopped for repairs at the end of the first lap. Hamilton had stormed through the carnage and relieved Buemi of 10th. Nevertheless, this was not what Ron Dennis and McLaren was 3rd ahead of Kubica, while Rosberg put a move on Raikkonen for 5th. And former Ferrari driver Barrichello was looking handy as well. The pit stops were underway, so Nakajima was up to 3rd. But it didn't last long. He ran wide, hit the curb and lost the rear. And that brought out the safety car. Button timed his stop to perfection. The safety car came out just after he rejoined in the lead. Unlike last year, when the safety car is required, drivers can dive into the pits as soon as they want. For 2009, the pit exit light would remain green. Rosberg struggled to get heat into his tyres. Trulli was already through. Now he was easy prey for Barrichello and indeed new boy Buemi. It wasn't what the team wanted to see. Hamilton had charged through the field. He had no trouble seizing 10th place from Glock. They might have started from the pit lane, but the team still had points high on their agenda. Glock said neither driver was injured, but pride was definitely hurt. Kubica was fast on the harder tyres, while Vettel struggled on the softer ones. He tried to defend, but had no grip to avoid a collision. BMW Sauber felt a podium at least had been in sight. The safety car was out once again, and with only 3 laps to go, it was Button from Barrichello, with Webber a lap down in between them on track. Third place Trulli made a mistake following the safety car. When he rejoined, Hamilton had passed him. How would McLaren react? Lewis slowed and was overtaken by Jarno. The safety car went in and left Button to lead the cars round to the checkered flag. It wasn't his first win, but it felt like it. He took the victory from pole and led every single lap. A month ago, they didn't know if they would be on the grid. Who could have predicted that? The Virgin partnership was only in its 2nd day, but Richard Branson was delighted with the result. Just 3 weeks since the team's track debut, they had completely turned things around. It was the ultimate high following a roller coaster few months.
I was thinking, wow, this feels good up here, and I get a free bottle of champagne as well. It was great to see so many fans and being very supportive of us. You know, I think that people understand what we've been through the last few months, and I think we've got a lot of support out there. It was sort of the people's team, I think, hopefully.
After investigation, Trulli was handed a penalty for overtaking under yellow flags, so Hamilton finished 3rd. Webber finished 13th, and both Toro Rossos made it into the points.
We don't really have the car to win at the moment, and by the grace of God I managed to bring the car home. I was in 4th, and I was overtaken under the yellow flags by Trulli, so I gained my position back and was 3rd. So podium finish in our first race with what we have was way more than we expected.
Hamilton was promoted to 3rd post-race in Australia, but as McLaren prepared as normal for the Malaysian Grand Prix, it transpired that there was more to the Trulli-Hamilton incident than previously thought. The FIA discovered an interview that Lewis had given straight after the race, and it seemed to contradict what he had told the stewards.
I was behind Trulli under the safety car, and clearly you're not allowed to overtake under the safety car, but he went off in the second to last corner. He went wide on the grass. I guess his tyres were cold, and I was forced to go by. I mean, I slowed down as much as I could. I was told to let him back pass, but I mean, I don't know if that's with the regulations, and if it isn't, then I should have really had 3rd. But
as a result of the information, Lewis was excluded from the Australian Grand Prix, and the team faced a meeting with the FIA Motorsport Council at the end of the month. Lewis felt obliged to both explain and apologise for his actions.
we were requested by the stewards, and whilst waiting for the stewards, I was instructed and misled by my team manager to withhold information, and that's what I did. And sincerely
apologise to the stewards for wasting their time and for making them look silly. But just really, I'm very, very sorry for the situation, for my team, for Dave, because he's been a good member of the team for many years. And whilst that I don't think it was his intention, or he's a good guy. And I went into the meeting. I had no intention of, I just wanted to tell the story, to say what happened, and I was misled, and it was that's the way it went. And I would like to say a big sorry to all my fans who have believed in me, who have supported me for years, who I've showed you I am for the past 3 years. It's who I am. I'm not a liar. I'm not a dishonest person. I'm a team player, and every time I've been informed to do something, I've done it. And this time I realised that it was a huge mistake, and I'm learning from it. It's taken a huge toll on me. I apologise for you guys. I didn't speak to you guys yesterday, but it was a lot to take in and a lot to deal with, and so I'm here to apologise to everyone and just assure you it wouldn't happen again.
An integral part of McLaren for over 30 years, Dave Ryan was a notable absentee on Friday in Sepang, and Martin Whitmarsh explained why.
It's become clear from discussions with Dave last night and through into this morning that during the stewards meeting after the Australian Grand Prix, he was not entirely full and truthful in the answers that he gave to the stewards, and consequently we had no alternative today other than to suspend him. As you can imagine, I think it's a very sad day for the team. We've got to deal with this weekend. We've got to look at, in a bit more detail, all of the events that surrounded that. From my perspective, obviously it's a point of deep regret. It's not how I wanted this year in particular to start. It's something for which the team and myself are not only deeply embarrassed but deeply regretful. And I think for Davey, it's been a shattering day for him.
It went from bad to worse for McLaren, but things seemed to get better and better for Brawn, with another pole position for Button. Trulli set P2 in the closing seconds. Barrichello's battle was hindered by a 5-place penalty following his gearbox change on Friday, while Vettel received a 10-place penalty for causing the collision with Kubica in Australia. Their misfortune put 2 Toyotas in the top 3, but Hamilton, Kovalainen and Massa had their work cut out. There were just seconds to go before the 5 o'clock race start. But Kubica and Glock got left behind, while a lack of grip hindered Button's onslaught. Alonso Raikkonen was 5th, but Jensen's grip was not getting any better in front. Button set about challenging Alonso, while teammate Barrichello managed to get his foot down and put Kimi in his place. Massa again. Kubica didn't get much further. He had struggled to get away at the start and retired on the second lap thanks to an engine problem. Next up, it was Barrichello. Fernando fought hard, but he... Or did he? The long pit straight gave Fernando a chance to use the slipstream. But when he went wide, Webber swept past. Schumacher's skills in the wet were undeniable, but he wasn't so confident about his forecasting abilities. There was no rain yet, but Ferrari tried to preempt the weather and sent Raikkonen out on full wet tyres, even though the track was dry. He'd been running quite well, so it was a huge gamble. The sky got darker, but the deluge of rain was yet to come. When Button came in on lap 19, he had no option but to go for dry tyres. He'd used his strategy to the max. 2 blisteringly quick laps when Rosberg and Trulli had pitted ensured he emerged at the front of the pack. Vettel was keen to overcome his penalty, and Raikkonen ahead was really struggling with his full wet tyres. Sebastian easily took advantage on the slicks. But the weather had begun to change. And his teammate fared no better. Lap 22 and the pit lane got very busy. Button returned for full wet, but the conditions were incredibly hard to read. Heidfeld's one-stop strategy helped him climb up to 5th after the stops. The pit lane was the only place to be, but still the conditions varied. The reigning world champion held on and eventually got the better of Mark Webber. Was on track long enough to get back to the pits for the full wet. Trulli and Barrichello were next to make the change. That was the last bit of racing action. Conditions had deteriorated enough. It wasn't just about the rain. The rapidly decreasing light in Sepang could present huge problems. What would happen? Preparations continued for a restart, but not everyone was convinced. Kimi? To the amusement of Timo. Rosberg had to be disappointed by 8th after leading the race. Things went Heidfeld's way from 10th to 2nd. Glock got his 2nd career podium just ahead of his teammate, who was 4th.
That was really good, I have to say. My engineer was shouting every time, "Man, you're the quickest, stay out, stay out." And I couldn't believe that, I think I was still on slicks and I saw Felipe Massa already on heavyweights, and I said, Kimi, that's quite an early change. And, what I said before, it took so long, the clouds, you could see it, and they took so long until they came up, and it took so long until it started raining. Then we were close to the pit stop, so I said, we go for it, go for Inters. And it was the right decision, and at the end I saved the tires at the beginning a bit, and then I saw everybody really struggling, and then I thought, okay, this is the time to push, go for it, and it was good fun.
It was an unusual race and an unusual result. Button racked up another win, but has left 5 points for his efforts. Heidfeld and Hamilton got their first of the year. Brawn and Toyota topped the standings. Red Bull and McLaren had got off the blocks, but Force India and Ferrari were still yet to score.
It comes from a group of people. Shove, Bono, James Vowles, our strategy guy, and obviously Ross. So it's a difficult call, but we actually thought those were the safest calls to make. I kept coming on the radio saying, "Are you sure? Are you sure? Are you sure? It's not raining that hard. Are you sure we want the X wet?" And they're like, in. So we did, and it was the safest option for sure. Looking at what the weather we normally get here, it's normally bucketing. I can't say bucketing, actually. Bucketing. I can't say that word for some reason today. It's the excitement, the adrenaline. So it normally does that, but it didn't. So we you'd say we made the wrong call, but it was the safe call at the time, and it worked for us.
Before the Chinese Grand Prix, a decision was made on the double diffuser row. The FIA concluded that the stewards were correct to find that Brawn, Toyota and Williams complied with the regulations, but it was a blow to the others.
I think it was obviously frustrating because I think the regulations were interpreted differently from two parties, and in the end we went to the Court of Appeal to achieve clarity. Obviously we believed that certainly the intention of the regulations and the spirit and the work that had been done in overtaking working group was very, very clear. But we had a fair hearing with the Court of Appeal, and we accept their decision. So the consequences, obviously, a lot of hard work, money, and an effort to now integrate a diffuser onto our car.
It definitely is a disadvantage because the season carries on, and it will take some races at least to catch up.
I like a lot the decision.
Double diffusers were not the only talking point in Shanghai. The fallout from Australia continued for McLaren.
Formula is going to concentrate on that. There's a lot of challenge.
Ron Dennis handed his responsibility as Chief Executive Officer of McLaren Racing to Ron had been a pioneering force within motorsport for over 40 years. Since 1980, McLaren have won 7 constructors and 10 drivers' titles. He's been associated with some of the all-time greats, such as Lauda, Prost, Senna, Berger, Hakkinen, and most recently was credited with the discovery of Lewis Hamilton. The team's long-term nemesis, Ferrari, was also in turmoil. They opted to remove KERS from their cars following the reliability issues they suffered in Malaysia.
We will not use KERS for this weekend. We will know that it's a decision that we have taken because we need to understand exactly on the safety point of view and reliability point of view the system. At this moment we need to be basic, I would say. We need to bring home all what we can in this condition and wait for the development of the new car that is coming, and then we will see. But this stage is very important to be really basic on everything.
Red Bull got back to basics in qualifying with a cracking lap from Sebastian Vettel, although Alonso looked to be a real threat in Shanghai. But it wasn't to be. Despite limited running thanks to problems with his drive shaft, Vettel managed to secure Red Bull's first ever pole position. Alonso lined up next and hoped that his aggressive strategy could catch him and restrain Mark Webber behind. So it was a second career pole for Vettel. Barrichello and Button were 4th and 5th. Buemi got the measure of his teammate and made it into the top 10. Piquet and Kubica were left frustrated, and a new gearbox cost Glock 5 places. After dry running all weekend, Sunday dawned to cloud and rain. A safety car start was the only option. The lights went to green and they were off, except for Glock, who opted to start from the pit lane on a full tank of fuel.
I think a rolling start is more dangerous than a standing start, that's for sure.
Understood, Lewis. I take it that means the spray is very bad out there. Confirm.
After only 7 laps, Alonso was in. The team expected the safety car to stay out for much longer. It didn't, and that left Fernando right at the back with it all to do. Hamilton was all fired up after the Ferrari's luck wasn't about to change just yet, but it looked like Lewis's had. There was lots of standing water, and he lost the ground he had worked hard to gain. And was lucky not to get hit. The track still resembled a lake, but Jensen managed to take advantage when his teammate ahead got caught out. With 2 wins under his belt for Brawn, he was gunning for the 3rd, but he had to take on the Red Bulls in the wet conditions. Glock didn't waste time making his way through the field. He disposed of Nakajima to move up to 13th. That impressed Toyota. Timo was lucky to continue after this tangle with Heidfeld. But their teammates were not so fortunate. Kubica caught his team out.
Why are you in the pit?
When Trilly braked into the corner, Kubica hit some standing water. Although he was hard on the brakes, the car still accelerated. He launched over the rear of Jarno, but at least no one was hurt. The safety car was out once again, but that didn't put a stop to all the problems. With echoes of Vettel's incident with Webber in Japan 2007, Buemi failed to see Sebastian through the spray and was lucky not to take him out of the race. And it wasn't working out for Massa. A podium finish was in sight until a software management problem cut out his engine and forced him to retire. Behind the safety car, it was Vettel ahead of Button, Webber, Raikkonen, Hamilton, then Barrichello, Kovalainen and Bourdais. Until the Frenchman got himself in a spin. The track was now clear, but the conditions were still horrendous. That didn't stop Hamilton's surge. He took fourth from Raikkonen. Piquet needed a good... Now Button was back in P2. It was agonising for the teams. But Webber didn't give up. And he quickly made amends. The race leader was the first of the front runners to make his final stop. He exited P3 behind Button. Mark Webber now led the race. He just had to keep Jensen behind after the stops to secure the 1-2. It was tantalisingly close. After Mark's stop, Jensen led, but Vettel had the bit between his teeth. He wanted this win and overtook Button, who had yet to even make his final stop. There was no... Even wet weather wonder Hamilton got caught out. Again. Sutil was there to pick up the spoils and 6th place. He had pitted during the safety car and filled up his tanks, but his tyres were badly worn. And he couldn't stop himself aquaplaning into retirement. He still hadn't improved on that running technique since Montreal last year. Red Bull were just minutes from their debut victory. All Sebastian had to do was keep the car on track. After disappointment in Australia and Malaysia, Vettel was determined to show that Red Bull meant business. Their car was incredible in wet conditions, and all without KERS or the double diffuser. It was nice weather for ducks, and indeed, bulls. When the checker flag fell, the Red Bulls were over 30 seconds ahead of their nearest rivals.
Great job, Sebastian. Proud of you. Great job.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for working so hard fixing the car. It was a dream to drive today. I had so much fun. It was so difficult, but together we made it. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. Thank you so much.
What shall I say? I mean, I'm extremely happy. Second time now in the wet. I've won a Grand Prix, so I mean, now we can probably have some more rain. But no, the car was fantastic. I think it's definitely necessary to mention that the team did a really, really good job in preparing the car. A double win for Red Bull is incredible. I mean, I'm extremely happy.
They made their debut in Australia 2005, and finally they got the result they'd worked so hard to achieve. But it wasn't all about Vettel. Mark Webber had overcome his injury and come back fighting. He took Toro Rosso's first win, so it was just a matter of time before he secured one for Red Bull too. Kate's dirty sister certainly did the business, and the victory tasted sweet. 2009 had seen many surprises and changes in F1. Last year's championship contenders struggled, while those at the back came to the forefront. And in the desert heat, Toyota took their turn at the top. Vettel and Button were next up. Behind the Toyotas, Hamilton was pleased with 5th. Both Ferraris made it into the top 10. Kubica and Heidfeld struggled once again, and Sutil got a penalty for impeding Webber. Luca de Montezemolo didn't count on seeing his red cars quite so far back. It was the red and white Toyotas that had the best seats in the house. Trulli got too much wheel spin off the start and lost the lead to Glock. Hamilton shot down the inside of Vettel while Button waited on the outside. Massa found himself squeezed between Barrichello and Raikkonen. And that left him needing to stop for repairs. They weren't the only ones who got into trouble. There was contact at the back of the field. Hamilton made a good start to jump from 5th to 3rd. He soon set about hunting down the Toyotas with a little help from his KERS. He rocketed past Trulli, but Jarno wasn't going to be sidelined. The Toyotas were no longer the threat. It was the brawn of Button who was on the prowl for 3rd place. Jensen had to make the move early before Hamilton deployed his KERS. He could not afford to be stuck behind the McLaren for long. Lap 11 and race leader Glock made an early stop. He took on the harder tyres and a lot of fuel. Toyota didn't wait long to see if there was an advantage. 1 lap later, Trulli also switched to the harder tyre. New race leader Button was pulling clear of Vettel, who was stuck behind Hamilton. Trulli rejoined 6th after his early stop, but he soon found himself under attack from his one-time teammate, Fernando Alonso. The harder tyres didn't seem to be working out. A 1-2 finish had slipped from their grasp. Rubens was on a 3-stop strategy, and being stuck behind Piquet was not part of the plan. The KERS enhanced Renault meant that Rubens couldn't put his light fuel load to full effect.
You have to get rid of Piquet as soon as possible. You have to get rid of Piquet.
Finally, Rubens got ahead. Ferrari's boss kept an eye on proceedings as his team looked to turn around their terrible start to the season. Raikkonen had briefly led the race, but all he could hope for was to score the team's first points of the season. What a difference a year makes. The second stint saw Trulli, Vettel and Hamilton separated by just 2 seconds. Trulli held off Hamilton when they pitted together, so all eyes waited to see where Vettel would re-emerge. On the hard tyres, he got out in front of Trulli. Any hope of scoring some points was long gone for Massa. He secured 14th place, with some force from Fisichella. But it gave his dad little to cheer about. The first round of stops, he controlled the race from there.
Great overtaking.
Sir Richard Branson witnessed the Brawn GP team consolidate their lead in the championship, while Vettel and Red Bull showed they had closed the gap to the front runners. Barrichello's 3-stop strategy didn't work out. Hamilton's 4th was an encouraging step forward, and Alonso made his point despite being very dehydrated after his drinking pump failed. Toyota's strategy of using the hard tyres during the second stint threw away the advantage of their front row lockout.
We had a couple of different strategies to play, and we tried very hard. We are here to win, we want to win, and we tried everything. And after our calculation, and we hope to have a better race pace, but eventually we were not quick enough.
The weight of expectation was on championship leader Button as F1 returned to Europe. Vettel was still right behind Barrichello, while Trulli jumped ahead of his teammate. Brawn extended their lead, BMW Sauber slipped behind Renault, while Ferrari finally got their first points of the season. Arriving back in Europe, Ferrari had their work cut out with only 3 points. So how difficult was it to integrate an updated diffuser to their existing package?
The problem for us that we had to modify the rear of the car, because it's an area where we had a lot of things that we have to move. So for us was a very complicated project, and this is the first step of the modification, because due to the time constraint we were not able to do what we wanted, but we will do sooner. Of course, in Bahrain it was important to score 3 points, but honestly speaking was not the thing that we wanted. We wanted to have more. But, I think that Bahrain was a starting point of this season. We don't have to speak of the first 3 races, but we need to look forward. And so I think that here in Spain, for sure, is a very important step in terms of what we can deliver in terms of the performance of the car. We will have an update, generally speaking, on aero side of the car. And really, we will see where we can be for the rest of the championship. I don't want to say that this is really, dead or alive race to see if we don't get there, then it's finished, because that's not the case. But for sure, it's important to see the trend of the development of the F60.
But the team were caught napping, and Raikkonen failed to make it out of Q1. They thought they'd make it through, but the huge error of judgment left Kimi 16th on the grid. Vettel was sandwiched between the 3 stopping Brawns. Massa was a much improved 4th. Kovalainen was 18th, while 14th placed Hamilton raced under a 3-race suspended ban for his conduct with the stewards in Australia. Five lights were lit, and the Spanish Grand Prix was go. The Toyotas were slow to get away. Hamilton wasn't, but he had to take to the grass to dodge Piquet. Massa moved up to 3rd, while Rubens got the jump on Vettel and his teammate. He established the lead into turn 1, but there was chaos behind as Trulli went wide off track, avoiding Rosberg. Both Sutil and Trulli ran wide and could not avoid each other. The Toro Rossos? Well, they were at the wrong place at the wrong time. Hamilton was lucky to get held up at the start. He had a good view of the mayhem and managed to avoid the shards of carbon fibre. But it left him at the back of the field. On the restart, Alonso and Webber got stuck into the battle for 5th. Fernando gave the crowd a close-up thrill, but Mark wasn't going to lie down and take it. Barrichello led, but to make a 3-stop strategy work, the message was clear.
Hammer down.
His teammate agreed.
Come on, Rubens, you can go quicker than this.
But it was a bad day for the Finnish drivers.
I've lost gears, I've lost all my gears, okay?
Okay, Heikki, box this lap, box this lap.
Yeah, okay. Something happened, I lost everything.
Kimi, stop and park the car outside. Stop, please.
Lap 31 and Barrichello headed a Brawn 1-2. The team switched Jensen to a 2-stop to avoid traffic, and even with a heavy fuel load, he was still only 13 seconds behind when Rubens made his 2nd stop. Button got his foot down and came round to take the lead. Massa went through, and so did Vettel. For a successful 3-stop strategy, the Brazilian had to be in the lead. Ferrari's more conventional strategy hadn't worked out either.
Felipe, we're very, very tight on the fuel. Very, very tight on the fuel. There was a problem with the inter-technique. Very tight. I need you to save fuel now. I need you to save fuel.
Boosted Ferrari of fourth-placed Massa all afternoon. The team knew the situation was hopeless.
Let him go, Felipe. Let him go. You've got 16 seconds to Alonso.
Fernando, Massa is 1 lap short of fuel. At the moment he's 3 seconds a lap slower than us, so we need to catch up with him. We can do him.
Okay, gap is 8.7 seconds. We need a bit more. Back off another second on this lap. We still need more. Carry on using the KERS, please, mate. Carry on using the KERS. We need to keep using that.
Alonso. In qualifying, Button started his pole position lap with just 2 seconds to spare. He lost his advantage, but there were many questions to be asked at Ferrari.
What's happened? I mean, what's happened on the machine?
Okay, just pull over to the side. Just pull over to the side and jump out, mate. Pull over to the side. I'll explain everything to you afterwards. Just pull over to the side and jump out.
Alonso may not have made the podium, but there were plenty of smiles in the Spanish crowd. Button was overjoyed to head up Brawn's second 1-2 of the season. Webber was pleased to be back on the podium, while at least Vettel had a good look at Ferrari's new diffuser. Heidfeld celebrated his birthday with 2 points, while Hamilton just missed out and finished a lap down. After the 4 flyaways, it was Brawn who had stamped their authority, and with the European season underway, all talk turned to their championship chances. F1 arrived at its most glamorous venue, but events from Spain were still high on the agenda. Barrichello felt that his teammates' switch to a 2-stop strategy lost him a possible victory, and with a strong sense of déjà vu, harking back to his Ferrari days, he clarified his feelings.
We had a small conversation, and I've said, you know, I'm a guy who was brought up by my father and my mother telling me that I don't need to be to have anything more than you. As long as you give me the same thing as you, I will prove that I can do better than you. And I told Ross that if after the race, still with my animals a little bit too high, I've said, look, if something was done for Jensen at this race, I'm prepared to go back to Brazil and never come back. You're never going to see me anymore. Because that's how it should be. I mean, it should be equal terms. And he promised me that's how it's going to be. So I'm very happy with that.
He was happier than several drivers after qualifying. Massa lost it, as did Piquet and Glock. Kimi got in at his, and so did Hamilton.
Damage the car.
Understood, Lewis. You just hit the left rear corner. We're just having a look on the tally. Okay, Lewis, if you can hear me, your car is completely damaged. You need to retire. Please stay with the car and remember to turn it completely off.
That left Button to take pole.
Boys, we worked hard for that one. Thank you very much, guys.
Raikkonen had high hopes starting from the front row. Force India were pleased to get both cars through to Q2, considering many big names had fallen by the wayside. Hamilton qualified a lowly 16th, but a change of gearbox landed him on the back